Hello, everybody. Welcome to another discussion video, and I have with me two guests, Spacey McSpacer,
What's up, guys? Spacey. You may recognize me from the previous discussion about Pac-Man.
as well as some of the live streams and that one episode of the Let's Play.
Yeah, those as well.
Yes, and a newcomer to this channel, Jackie-XKH.
Hello, I'm Jackie, and I exist.
Yeah.
I did an interview with someone who worked on Pac-Man World 2.
Oh yeah, that was a very fascinating video.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Pac-Man art collab.
Yeah.
Other than that, I make artwork and stuff.
Yeah. I'll have a link to their Twitters and YouTubes in the description below. Anyways, today's topic, last discussion was prior to the 40th anniversary of Pac-Man, and we are now in 2021, and we are basically at that point of no return, to say the least. We're basically past the 40th anniversary. And, what have we exactly gotten? What would you say we've gotten, as far as everything?
Very much things. I would just say things. Nothing really I could say really good. Just things. Nothing really felt too special. Sure, we did get some pretty good stuff, but nothing truly felt special or grand like previous anniversaries.
In all honesty, the coolest thing that came out of this anniversary, in my opinion, like the most, like, sort of, like, in terms of, as far as games go, which is the most important because Pac-Man is a video game franchise, the most, like, interesting and significant thing is Minecraft DLC.
And that one Stadia game as well, which, I mean, could technically be considered the next main series game.
I mean, I guess that, like, I mean, that could, well, like, personally, the Minecraft were fun and interesting to me. I mean, I haven't played Mega Tunnel Battle, but also because it's on Stadia.
I mean, I can't blame
Yeah.
you.
Like,
I can't play it either. I just kind
It
of
looks
refuse to
pretty
buy
cool.
Stadia.
I refuse
it's pretty
Stadia as
cool, but
well.
It's like, it's on Stadia.
And the fact of the matter is that they're, like, justifying the very concept of it being on Stadia, which is baffling to me, especially considering that Stadia is, like, on the brink of death.
Yeah, they just, Google just kind of realized it was a failure, and I don't expect support to go beyond, at the very latest, 2022.
Yes, and you know,
Unless it gets ported to other platforms.
that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, the one fear I have is that, you know, Stadia will, like, go under, and basically, Pac-Man, Mega Tunnel Battle will basically end up like all those mobile games where it's just, you know, gone, you know, lost to time and stuff, you know, unplayed.
Yeah, at least you'll probably have a Stadia emulator, or at the very least something where you could possibly play Stadia games.
True,
Without the Stadia stuff.
but isn't it
Well,
like...
the thing is with Mega Tunnel Battle is that it's an online game, so it's like,
Right,
I mean, I think we
yeah.
can continue to make fan servers, but even then that's
well, how many people would play it?
I don't know, but that's just assuming things.
Actually, that reminds me of something funny. It's like, I remember on the trailer for it, like on YouTube, it, like, in the trailer it said, like, you and 50 other players, I forget how many players are, like, actually in it, but I think, so just, but it's like around, it's like a big number, so I'm like, it's like you and 50 other players, like, you know, one, and so on, and well, like one of the top comments was like it's bold of them to assume there would be more than 50 people playing.
Oh man.
Oh
How
man.
funny.
So
How true is that?
So basically, there was also another game, but it never actually ended up coming out. It was Pac-Man Live Studio, a Twitch exclusive Flash game. Essentially, it was like a maze creator, right?
Flash?
Well, not Flash. I mean, that's just,
Black Dawn.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not. That's just. I know. It's just like a way. Like I remember a friend putting it once, but I mean.
Yeah, it was confusing how you would even be able to play the game. Like, how would you get access to it? I haven't really seen any other Twitch games. Like, would you have would it be like you download EXE from something like Steam and then you can invite people to play it from Twitch? Or was it like something in browser from Twitch?
I don't know how that would have even worked, honestly. It's just...
Yeah, it just felt like communication was poor on that front.
Right, and, like, the fact of the matter is it's basically, like, gone. Like, there's been, like, no information on it since. I mean, either there've been, like, little things here and there, like how it was apparently, still in development or whatnot, but, like, there's, like, no other word other than that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of wondering, is this gonna go down the same path as Mega Man Universe? Basically just be the Pac-Man equivalent of that?
Most
I'll say
likely.
it might.
Yeah, I don't really see this project being picked up anytime soon because it just doesn't really seem like Bandai Namco's really interested in this, this game. It's like they want to put something like other efforts.
It doesn't even seem like they're really that much interested in this series to begin with, I mean...
And part of me wonders if Corona delayed some of their plans.
No, yeah, that's
Like,
another thing.
I'm just thinking what would have happened if Corona didn't happen.
Right,
How
well...
would the universe be
The
affected
world would
exactly?
be a much better place.
Oh yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely, but, I mean...
Very true.
So, yeah, I just wonder if us getting mostly nothing had... If a lot of that had to do with, COVID itself. Or if there was... Like, or if this really was all that was planned, we'll never know. There have been like some there was like a Japanese interview that sort of like talked about future plans. I don't exactly remember everything in regards to it, but like there is some mention of like a game with like a big new gimmick, and something about like that 45th anniversary.
25th.
I mean, I could just like pull up the article if I can find it or whatnot. But I mean, for the most part, like the 40th. I mean, but for the most part, like the 40th anniversary was just kind of void. And like the thing is, going into the anniversary, I didn't really have any expectations at all. I had hopes,
Yeah, Pac-Man didn't really do anything since 2016, so I mean, I was like, yeah, I would think we'd get something, but I wasn't expecting it to be like too big. I mean, at the same time though, half of me was expecting it to be big because 4 years is just like the average development cycle, and I'm like, I think they could potentially. Of course, COVID made that a lot less likely, but still.
And the thing is, I wouldn't mind Mega Tunnel Battle so much if it wasn't for the whole Stadia thing, In general,
Yeah.
the Stadia...
That's the thing, like, I feel like even when they release a new Pac-Man game that seems pretty cool, oftentimes it's always just stuck to some platform where it's like Megaton Battle. Oh, that seems pretty fun. Oh, it's only on Stadia. Party Royale. Oh, that seems pretty fun. Oh, it's only on Apple Arcade.
I guess it's Bandai Namco's ultimate goal to get something Pac-Man related on every single system.
Right.
That just really just seems to be a thing they want to do.
Yeah, but why?
I mean,
why-
it's
I'm,
it's a you know, it's just a way to, I don't know how to really say it. It's like a going through the motions sort of thing, because they haven't really done anything, you know, noteworthy with the series since 2017 or like 2016. I don't know. Like whenever, like, the last thing we got was, you know, Championship Edition 2, and since
2016.
okay, 2016. So that's
Yeah.
like,
They also had like the 2018 expansion exclusive to Switch, so that's considered kind of a half step. So they did something in 2018.
oh,
If that really counts.
Yeah, but it's still like, I don't know.
And
It's
like,
no CEX, but it certainly was something a little bit more unique.
right. And again, I'm not expecting anything too big or anything, but the fact of the matter is there wasn't anything big for consoles or PC. It's just, you know,
Yeah.
releases for systems that most people aren't going to buy or whatnot.
Yeah, it just felt like a year full of side projects. Like, it
Which,
feels like
and you know, people will say that we still got games this anniversary. Yeah, we did get games. We did get, you know, things like merchandise and whatnot, but we didn't get anything noteworthy. We got side projects that were on systems that, again, most people aren't going to buy. And compare that to previous anniversaries where we got, you know, notable titles like, you know, I mean, World goes without, you know, I mean, World goes without saying. The 20th anniversary, you know, that goes without saying. It's been a mixed bag, I won't deny that. I can understand, I can understand not wanting to go back to, you know, 3D platformers or whatnot. But even then, though, like, another take on the maze formula, which, yeah, we still did. We got Mega Tunnel Battle. But that was still just, like, a side project that was on, again, the Stadia. You know? So, yeah, I guess. But to put it simply, the 40th anniversary was just kind of void.
Yeah, I'm debating if the 40th or the 25th anniversary was worse. On the one hand, the 40th had
I'd say
nothing, but at least was good.
I'd say
While the
that
25th was just
40th.
disappointing.
The 25th, well, the thing is, with the 25th, is that it wasn't only World 3. Like,
Right, we got-
World 3 was this point, but we also had Back and Roll and Pac-Man.
Yeah, and Pac-Man Arrangement
Actually,
2005.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those games are fine. I have an unpopular opinion that Pack and Roll is just kind of, the DS version is just something I just can't get used to in controls. The Wii version is pretty great with controls, but is gutted of all its content, a lot of content, which really.
A definitive version of Pack and Roll for the Switch is something I'd really like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with Pac-Man Tilt. Like, a version of that for the Switch where all you just do is, like, you know, you can, like, have the option to, like, tilt the controls instead of, you know, tilting the entire damn console. I will say...
Yeah, we also got a ton of different disappointing games around 2005 as well. Like Pac-Man Pinball Advance and World 2 Game Boy Advance was also pretty disappointing.
I mean, those were just small Game Boy Advance games. I don't really see them as, like...
True, though, I still think the idea of a Pac-Man Pinball was really wasted in that title because knowing Mario and Sonic also had pinball games like Game Boy Advance that were, like, better. Still not really that great,
Yeah,
but still were better. But
I wouldn't call Mario Pinball Land better, honestly.
I've heard
I
things
mean-
about Mario Pinball. I can't
Mario
exactly
Pinball Land
say.
is kind of a guilty pleasure for me. A
Yeah.
game I can really enjoy, but
The only, like, Sonic
In
pin... Oh, go on.
in my opinion, Mario Pinball Land, I will say, yeah, Pac-Man Pinball Advance feels more like a generic pinball game, while Mario Pinball Land tries to do a unique twist, but at the same time, that unique twist isn't good in my opinion. So
I say it was just kind of poorly executed. Like, I just think that there was more. I think they just made made the physics at least slightly better, or gave you more items to help you navigate. I think it would have been fairly decent, but
Yeah, a Pac-Man pinball-esque game is something that has potential. Pac-Man Tilt was kind of that. It had pinball mechanics, except that it wasn't entirely like pinball-esque. It
was more of a platformer with physics.
It's like Pac-Man and Casino Night, to put it simply, and it's fine. It's all right. But regardless, I will say that, yeah, the 25th anniversary was most definitely a mixed bag, to say the least. But at the very least, we got, something. We didn't really get anything this year. I mean, we got side projects.
Got a lot of good stuff, but it was just nothing special.
It was kind of bland, to say the least.
Of course, they could just release another title in 2021, and that could be kind of considered its own anniversary title, like how Championship Edition 2 was technically Pac-Man's 35th anniversary title when it was only released in 2016.
It came out a year later.
Right.
Yeah, I would likely assume that Championship Edition 2 went through some development things, and that's why it released later than usual.
I guess you could.
I just like to consider Championship Edition 2 the 30th anniversary game, because I don't really know if Pac-Man 256 or something would really count as something I would really consider anniversary worthy.
Right, and
anniversaries do sometimes come out after or something even before the game series turns that age.
Pac-Man World did come out in 1999, which was like a year before Pac-Man's actual 20th anniversary, I believe, right?
Yeah, same thing goes for Maze Madness, which came out in 2000 when Miss Pac-Man's anniversary was in 2001.
Right. Yeah. So we had games that weren't exactly on the year of the anniversary. More so, they were just, a tie-in, a follow-up to that, like the final act or whatever, or, the pre-act or whatever. So it's possible we could still get something, in 2021 this year that's, that.
I guess, though, also at the same time, I kind of doubt it, because the official Pac-Man Twitter has, stopped using the anniversary branding.
True.
So to me, that kind of signifies
I guess I can read.
Yep, that was the anniversary.
Yes,
yeah.
The anniversary.
I think I think my theory is that COVID just slowed down a lot of things with Pac-Man, and thus it didn't go as ambitious as they wanted to due to restraints. I just would likely assume that if there was a big Pac-Man title, it would likely come out in 2021 or 2022, depending on if COVID ruined it that much and how long COVID will last.
I'd hate to think that, the project got scrapped because of, the situation or anything.
Yeah, I'm afraid. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't.
COVID definitely did affect Live Studio.
Yeah.
At least I would assume it would affect Live Studio.
Right.
Based on lack of information.
And it'd be worse if it was like another adventure game or something, because, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time, something like that was scrapped in the, 2000s or, early 2010, early 2000, 2010s, early 2010s or whatever. God, yeah. I just,
Pac-Man World 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I feel like it would have been at least the World 4 we could have potentially hoped for. I think it would have been more of a crash-landed situation where it's kind of a soft reboot.
I mean, it basically is. It used, the Pac-Man party art style. And...
Yeah, so it had the design was, different from Pac-Man Party. The thing is...
It was a prototype.
I remember, seeing, concept art or model sheets of that design, years ago, and sharing it around.
I mean...
but but that like footage was like recently discovered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes you wonder, what could have been. I've talked about it a bit here and there on this channel.
Maybe the fandom wouldn't be so divided if they finally got themselves their World 4 that they just don't want to end off things with.
Right, we don't need constant sequels. We just, want a conclusive game that, actually feels, that's actually pretty good, one that actually cuts it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, I feel like with the direction the series has taken in recent years, it's like hang on, I'm trying to think, sorry.
It's okay, I think I'll speak my word on it because, yeah, I think the series direction is heading into more of a more smaller series, something not really that prominent.
Basically what Mega Man was in the early 2010s, if that's a good comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, Mega Man didn't barely got any games. It was just merchandise and, cameos and other stuff. We still have, games, but they're not really, big titles. They're not, the stuff we would get every anniversary, or, the stuff we would get once in a while, But what I have noticed is that since Pac-Man's inception or conception or whatever, there has been a platformer or adventure game every decade since the series existed. In the 80s you had Pac-Land, in the 90s you had Pac in Time, and if we're just counting adventure games in general, we could also include Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures / Hello Pac-Man. Late 90s you had Pac-Man World. 2000s you had Maze Madness, Adventures in Time, World 2, World 3, Pack and Roll, and had Pac-Man World 2009/2010 come out in either 2009 or 010. That would have basically been a send off to the 2000s era, whatnot, while also going into a newer era, whatnot. 2010s we had Ghostly Adventures and Pac-Man Tilt, Ghostly Adventures 2, And since Ghostly Adventures 2, there's basically been nothing, to say the least. As far as, Pac-Man as a character. It doesn't necessarily even need to be a platformer or anything. It just be anything that, focuses on Pac-Man as a character, going on an adventure or whatever. And the fact of the matter is, you could, just make a maze game that follows that formula, essentially.
I mean, that's what... The thing is, that's what Maze Madness is. That's what, Adventures in Time is. So it's they've shown that approach can work.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
And again, it's possible... Oh, go on.
I feel I miss when they had characters in the world and whatnot. It's I've heard people say oh, it doesn't need those things, and it's sure it doesn't need them, but does that mean they shouldn't be there?
It's what benefited the series.
Yeah,
when you think
people
about
me
it,
and you connected with the series in the first place.
Right. It's what made us
exactly.
It's what made us interested in the series. I mean, of course, the series. I mean, it's what kept it alive. I mean, Pac-Man was essentially gaming's first real character. and each game after the original added on to the cast until we ended up getting big adventures with stories, some of them having platforming, some of them retaining the maze gameplay but with some puzzle elements or whatnot. I would like to see another platformer be done in the series. There's a lot of potential for that. And the fact of the matter is, I would like to think that possibly something is in the works, and just the whole COVID-19 stuff has kind of just gotten in the way. I'm of the believer that it's possible to have, a series where maze games and platformers can coexist, or
yeah, because some people just think that Pac-Man should be one or the other. For example, and while I don't want to insult Nick too much, I do think he just kind of leans a little bit too much into the platformer side. I have seen him get a little bit defensive with the maze fans, and it's kind of annoyed them. On the other side, on the other hand, I've seen people like Namco Kid and Ryan and Spin just kind of advocate for being Pac-Man mostly mazes and avoiding platform, because that would almost kill the series. And honestly, I think I find them a little bit exaggerate.
They exaggerate.
Because, sure, I get where they're coming from, because World 3 was not a direction I feel like the series would have taken positively. Even if I do like the lore in that game, I do agree that it was kind of antithesis to Pac-Man's character and such. But what's ironic is that they're also advocating for another antithesis of Pac-Man's character, that being the removal of any character from him.
Right. Right. The idea...
Because we've been seeing more sprite-based Pac-Man lately,
and there's nothing wrong with the sprite, there's nothing wrong with the sprite style of the series. I just think it'd be more appropriate to be used as, symbolism or whatnot,
Yeah, because they just kind of advocate for a lack of character in Pac-Man, because the latest games, while they do offer pretty good story modes, like Championship Edition 2 certainly had a satisfying story mode, it didn't really have the character that Pac-Man has been defined with.
There wasn't really any story in Championship Edition 2. Yeah, it was just a collection of challenges.
Not even any sort of in between, demos.
The closest thing you got was the boss battles, which were cool and all, and showed off a side of the game that it didn't really explore enough of. But there isn't really any reason. It's just a bunch of disconnected characters, or a bunch of characters a bunch of avatars disconnected from any character, to say the least. If that's the way to put it, And the fact of the matter is, if that's all the character is going to amount to that now, just a symbol with, no emotion or, no, story, nothing to really, tie everything together, it feels kind of empty. Basically, to put it simply, Ghostly Adventures came, it crashed and burned, and it took Pac-Man's, while Pac-Man survived, to say the least, it basically took his soul, if that makes any sense. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's kind of like Bandai Namco and all those, maze fans took the wrong lessons from Ghostly Adventures.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing that the way Pac-Man was portrayed was bad, it was more of Pac-Man's character in general was bad. His entire character side was bad.
Yeah.
And you get people who would look at something like Pac-Man World 2009 and say that, oh, they made the right choice to cancel this because Pac-Man's history with platformers has been rocky. It's been rocky ever since he made the jump into 3D, and it's just how would you know that,
It's this Pac-Man or Sonic.
Yeah.
What's always said about Sonic.
I know, but you get...
Yeah, we're starting to see that divide happen, and it's so strange. This divide, I've always seen Marcus and Namco Kid fight every once in a while, but it wasn't until exactly on the day of the 40th anniversary where the fan base just split apart. It was the Eclipse Camp for Sonic Adventure 2, tearing through the earth, splitting everything.
It's the divide, you know. You know, the fandom is at war with each other, you know.
Yeah, it's the us versus them mentality that
yes.
people have been holding on both sides of the spectrum, you know?
Yes, and the thing is it's
a
basically
a game that can unite us again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, something to satisfy, like, both sides of the fandom, and, you know, some would even say that the next logical step for, you know, some fans would be, Overworld 4, which, in of itself is a big discussion I'm not really gonna get into now. I mean...
I feel like the best, like, the next logical step, if you're talking about, like, since we were talking about the fandom being divided, I'd say the best logical step for making it not be so divided is a game that is like a game that's like Maze Madness.
Right.
Like,
yeah, something that can.
It's a maze game that's like got different environments
and that has a lot of potential. I feel the series should experiment with platforming more, but it doesn't specifically need to be this or that. If anything, I'd love an adventure maze game with a full-on story, sprawling maze level design, dynamic camera angles, and emphasis on power-ups like in 256, a frantic, fast-paced nature of the Championship Edition games. Why can't we have something like that? Yes, that has a lot of potential, I will say. And another thing is, like, or another way they could go about it is just, you know, like, what Sonic did in their, like, what Sonic attempted in, like, the 25th anniversary. I say attempted because, you know, actually, the actual execution was not exactly very good, but, like, you know, on the 25th anniversary, you had, these weren't exactly on the 25th anniversary, but, like, you had Sonic Mania, which was
Sonic Mania and Sonic
Forces. Of course,
3D game and a 3D game, except the 3D game wasn't very good.
Right, yeah, that's why I say attempted. Of course, it still kind of ignored other factions of the Sonic fan base, like, you know, the adventure fans, but that in of itself is, again, Sonic is a mess.
Yeah, it's way easier to fix Pac-Man's fan divide because it's only split into two, or Sonic to split it between, like, I don't know, like, let me just say 5 factions or so, I mean...
Probably more. Probably more than that, like, well, let's see...
9,000 factions.
Wait, what?
9,000 factions. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Okay. Alright.
I could discuss for a little bit.
Alright. But, anyways, as I was saying, yeah, it's a very easy thing to fix. Just, like, make a game that appeals to, like, you know, fans of his more adventurous side, and then make a game that's, like, more arcadey, that appeals to, like, you know, the classic arcade fans, you know.
Yeah.
It's a very, simple thing to do. Like, Pac-Man isn't like Sonic, where it's like you have, like, 50 million different iterations with each of their own individual fan bases, you know, and, like, you know, making one thing will piss off the other faction. I mean, I remember when, you know, I mean...
Sorry, my cat was making noise, so I had to go, but I'm back now.
Alright, that's good. But, I mean, yeah, Pac-Man is, like, a fairly easy thing to fix, you know. But, I mean, ultimately, you'll hear, you know, things that, like, you'll hear things from, like, the other faction of the fan base, the Maze fans, like, saying stuff like, you know, the World Series wasn't exactly the best selling in Japan, you know, which I'm not sure how much of that really mattered, to say the least.
Yeah, I would just assume it's just...
Well, not only that, but it's like, the thing is, I always hear World 2 bombed Japan, but it's like...
But World 1, what about that one? Did that one bomb too?
Well, the other thing is that like, where's your source?
Yeah, exactly.
I think
I couldn't find anything about, like, World 2 selling poorly in Japan.
I know.
I think Namco came in to get that because it wasn't in Famitsu's like sales catalog, which usually gets sales from like Japan, and usually I think they think there's a certain barrier where they have to reach in order to be on the charts, which is like 1,000 or so copies. I'm not 100% sure how many copies, but whatever that was, Pac-Man World 2 on Japan sold lower than that amount that would be put into that leaderboard.
Right.
In fact, Japan sales tend to be kind of hard to determine in general. But that's just generally the most reliable way people get the sales.
Right. And again, we haven't seen like an exact chart that said what the sales were. So that's still debatable. I mean...
And also, another thing is that, like, wasn't Pac-Man always more successful in North America?
Yeah, that's the main thing. The series has always seen most of its success in, North America, so,
Yeah, its success would be sort of irrelevant. Like, Japan still loves Pac-Man, but North America loves it even more. It's just, like, one of...
I mean, you could show anybody, like, a pizza with, like, a missing piece, and then they'll think, oh, it's Pac-Man, And you could show them the limb design, and they'll be like, oh, it's Pac-Man,
Yeah.
He's generally a universal character that people can understand. Anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll have those select few who think that them giving him limbs was some redesign, Derek. But even though he's had limbs before he was called Pac-Man, but
Yeah.
I mean, most people, and who, grew up with like a PS2 or a GameCube, a lot of people who grew up with a PS2 or GameCube played, any of the world games. They played, those games and, have fond memories of them, though. And, there are a lot of people. I mean, I've come across countless people who've mentioned World 2, you get people who, recognize, the melody from, if you would like to say... You get people who'd recognize the melody of its title song, It's...
Yeah, it's generally sold well enough to at least become some of a cultural icon in, the library of the GameCube PS2. People know World 2. It's just generally one of the games that I see, one of the most common I've seen around.
I
mean, Battle for Bikini Bottom is also, considered a cult classic, and,
Yeah, I kind of think of, World 2 and Battle for Bikini Bottom as being, as far as my knowledge, they're, on the same level of knownness.
Right.
Maybe Battle for Bikini Bottom is a little more known now because it has a remake, but... Right.
But I mean, there wouldn't be a remake in the first place if there wasn't, support behind such a thing. And as is, there's been, a lot of support for, something to be done with Pac-Man platformers, or, a Pac-Man adventure game, or a remaster of, the World Trilogy, or whatever. And again, I'm not saying that's what the series needs, I mean, ultimately, I'd say that's something that the series would benefit from, because, I mean, as is, it seems like the series just hasn't really gotten much traction, as far as, discourse outside of, the fandom, I mean...
Pac-Man is sort of a stagnant point. I won't say that Pac-Man is going to become a Frogger, where they're going to just abandon it, but it's probably going to end up being a Bomberman, where it just... People know about it, it's still culturally relevant, but all the real attempts of experimentation will be forgotten and will just be known as just the one game on, like, that's the famous one.
Right.
Uh,
It's kind of the tragedy of, I will say though, the series is kind of like in that state where, no matter like, because again, games like Rule 2 will be remembered, but for the most part, people are just gonna think of like the classic Maze game, like the original, as like the, the tried and true, like, that's,
people
some
didn't
people,
really expect Pac-Man to experiment. Like,
yeah, people,
because-
there are people who only acknowledge, the original game and Miss Pac-Man, and that's about it, don't know that there's more to the series outside of the original. Like, they don't know about Pac-Mania or Arrangement. They don't know about Amaze Madness. The World series is probably like the most well-known aside from the original 2 arcade games. I mean, it's either the original or one of the platformers,
Yeah. I feel like the success of the original was kind of like both a blessing and a curse. Because it's like it was a successful game and it started this whole franchise, and without the original, we wouldn't be sitting here having this discussion.
I mean, it also like yeah.
On the curse in that it's so successful that the fact is,
That's
no
all.
matter what they do with Pac-Man, no matter how fantastic of a game they make, the original will always be like overshadowed by the original.
yeah, which we find a little sad because there's a lot of great Pac-Man games in the series.
I mean, there are a lot that are better than the original.
Yeah.
I mean, to some extent, that's I mean, like, for example, the Mario series, I mean, the most well-known game is Super Mario Brothers, but people still talk about, all the other games that came out in the series, like Galaxy or 64 or whatnot. So, it's just kind of... But I mean, I guess, with the original arcade game being as iconic as it is, it's kind of, an unfortunate thing. And the thing is, if one experimental game fails, they might just like stick to if like an experiment fails, they'll just stick to what everybody knows and just like shill out the original Maze game. But like, what is there what is there to really shill out? I mean, they basically like stretched it to its maximum point. Like, even the 256 glitch, I will say, which, don't get me wrong, still has potential, in certain other areas, mechanically and storyline-wise. But, I mean, it just feels like that most of what we've been getting have just been, remember the first game? Megatunnel Battle seems to be trying to break away from that, being more of, like, reminiscent of games like Arrangement or Mania, but...
Yeah. For once, it has an aesthetic that's not just the original arcade game walls.
Right. And unfortunately, it's victim of being on the Stadia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where most of the that's why most people don't really realize Pac-Man's modern experiments, because they've just been on places where people don't really care about. Like,
Yeah.
Not only like there are places on that people don't care about, and they're like barely advertised.
One of the worst things about one of the worst things about this is the fact of the matter is that this is kind of it's kind of like treating your fans like, they're punks, I guess, if that's how you want to put it, I mean, fans of the series, that's basically... You get where I'm going with this, right? Yeah, basically, by, like, putting all these games on, consoles that most people aren't gonna bother with, this kind of like puts your fans in like a situation, where they're basically not really being treated right,
Yeah, which is...
I feel like
as much as I love the series,
by just like, I feel like by putting your games on like consoles or services that just nobody cares about, especially not the like people you're targeting, then like
it's suicide.
You're just setting yourself up for failure.
It's suicide, basically. It's commercial suicide.
Yeah.
I mean, that's way more of like a bad idea than, say, making another Pac-Man World game or, whatnot. Because, like, and, if you're, and, I will say, it's okay to be happy with the current, it's okay to be fine with the current state of the series. But you can't, but to deny all these, exclusives to, all these services that nobody cares about, to deny the fact that that's had more of, a negative impact than a positive one, you're kind of, it's kind of...
Pac-Man wants to be on everything, but...
Right.
Pac-Man's really not the game more trust, because I think the biggest flaw with banning Namco's logic of put Pac-Man on everything is that they're putting stuff on dead platforms, essentially.
Well, it feels
I just...
the thing is, I feel like...
Probably signed a contract with Google. Either that, or I feel like they just signed a contract with Google or with Amazon to make games for those systems.
And of course, and it feels like a lot of these games just, I mean, I can definitely tell that there's, effort, with a lot of these games, but it feels like there's, a sense of obligation, they're doing this out of a sense of obligation because, oh, we own this IP, but we don't really know what to do with it, and, again, given, the direction Bandai Namco has taken when it comes to their games, their most notable works as a whole. I mean, as their most notable works as of the 2010s, what their general focus had been, it just kind of feels, definitely they're just doing this out of obligation. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I know. I'm a little bit trouble thinking of the words.
Yeah.
Mostly because I just don't want to come off as biased.
Right.
Because I can understand why people would like this direction of the series, because knowing what previously happened, I don't want this series to just get even more of a Sonic Boom tumor on it.
I'd argue we kind of did get to that point with Ghostly Adventures.
Yeah, but I think it wasn't as nearly as bad as Sonic Boom was.
True.
At least Pac-Man was mostly able to recover from that, because people just know Ghostly Adventures is just a little silly experiment. While Sonic Boom just still kind of latches onto the Sonic series, and just kind of takes life away from it.
With Sonic, we still get games.
I think here's something I've thought about before, when, comparing Ghostly Adventures to Sonic Boom. So, Ghostly Adventures was, a reboot of the series, essentially replacing the, adventure game that came, the sort of, characters and tone of world and whatnot of the adventure games that came before. While Sonic Boom, they had stated before even, start, back when there was just, I think it was just when it was that one teaser image with, the silhouettes. Sega stated that this was a, spin-off side franchise, and that the main Sonic series would still continue.
That is very true.
But thinking about it, part of me feels like it probably should have been the other way around to some extent, because Ghostly Adventures is radically different from what came before.
Right, and to like pass that off
What?
as like the replacement for like what everybody knew, like, all right, now here's this established character, this classic character. Now here's what the series will be from now on, and it's like so radically different with like a different art direction, like different style of way, of like different rules for this universe. Like how Pac-Man, how he needs to eat the power pellets in order to eat the ghosts. Here he can just like eat the ghosts, no problem. I mean, I think he still needed to like eat the pellets from like the tree of life or whatever. But I mean, regardless.
Yeah, it was like I think he could technically just eat them without them, but eating power pellets like enhanced his like speed and let him fly, whatever, give him powers. So,
which wasn't necessarily the most well conveyed in the game, since they were just they functioned more like just points additions, or just added onto the points through like requirements for.
Yeah, or they were just optional power-ups used to get a few collectibles.
Right. Well, a lot of the power.
Like sometimes you had to require the power-ups, but a lot of the time they were almost optional.
All right.
But what I was saying, that like Ghostly Adventures was so radically different from what came before. But with Sonic Boom, thinking about it, it's not really all that different from like the normal Sonic, and like it still had it still had like the key characters: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Eggman, Shadow.
It just
it didn't really introduce a whole lot of new characters. Really the only notable new character it had was Styx. And since Sonic is no stranger to adding new characters, it's not Styx doesn't seem like a character that would be out of place in normal Sonic.
Yeah, I also think Sonic Boom had a pretty similar sense of humor to the modern Sonic games. Lots of irony and stuff like that. Really didn't distinct itself that much.
Which, and upon retrospect, doesn't really make it hold up very well.
I feel like because it's not, in the case of Sonic Boom, because it's really not all that different, from the main series, it makes me wonder what was even the point of making it.
I mean, Sonic Boom did originally have different directions. There was Sonic Synergy and Sonic Boom. Both of them were taking different approaches. They were combined into one, and I guess that's how we managed to get the things so similar to how we got similar, how Sonic Boom got similar to the modern Sonic, because the original version of Sonic Boom and Sonic Synergy was a lot different. It was going to be a lot more action focused, and
more reminiscent.
They got merged into one, and they became a lot more similar to the main series of Sonic.
Right. They essentially, originally there was intentions to make one side of the series more adventure, or with a little hint of Uncharted or whatnot. Whereas the other section was just comedy. But and you can tell there was definitely very poor communication between the people who were working on the game and the people who were working on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the game was a mess.
Right. Yeah.
Also, another thing is that this is a Pac-Man video.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting off topic.
Right.
Got a little bit off topic, but point still stands
that Ghostly Adventures was an experiment that kind of had some lasting effects. In general, I just miss, the thing is, Ghostly Adventures, for as much as we like to sort of like throw shade at it, like to joke on it, whatnot, make, as much as we like to, joke about it, make fun of it or whatnot, and it is fun to make fun of, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it does have a lot of what, I miss in the series. It has a lot of what we miss, in the series, even if it was in a package that was generally mixed in quality,
Yeah, the adventure, the character, all that stuff.
Right.
It's just missing this more.
The thing is, I enjoyed Ghostly Adventures, but I feel like Ghostly Adventures was not a very good direction to take the series.
The thing is, it could have easily just been like an alternate continuity. I guess.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about it. In general.
Like I said, like they should have done.
It's kind of Pac-Man for a lot more than kids.
Make it its own like side thing.
Right.
Yeah. We're trying to like aim your Ghostly Adventures more towards kids, which was definitely a demographic they were kind of missing. But like, they just tried so hard to come off as cringe.
Yeah,
they tried to be hip and cool with the kids.
That goes back to what I said about how I don't think it was necessarily the right direction. Because, to me, Pac-Man shouldn't be something that's for kids.
He should be for everyone.
Yeah.
It
should, of course, always be appropriate for kids. There should never be a Pac-Man game where he's swearing and being violent.
And shooting up demons or whatever. The closest we got to that was World 3.
Yeah. But it should always be something appropriate for kids, but it shouldn't be trying to be targeted specifically towards kids. It's like how Ghostly Adventures was like making how they made Pac-Man younger and
made him
had a lot of juvenile humor.
And he said meme.
Yeah, he was very funny with those memes.
Also, my computer is very, very low now, so I have to go.
All right. Well, before we get all right. Well, before you go, would you like to say your final thoughts on like the 40th anniversary as a whole?
40th anniversary as a whole. We got a really cool Minecraft thing. A game that looks cool, but is exclusive to a platform I otherwise have absolutely no interest in.
And refuse to buy.
A game that never came out, and a mobile game that I played and honestly was not a good game.
Don't forget a broken fan base.
Yeah. And I feel like the whole thing is like, with a lot of it, it seems they focus more on like merchandise and whatnot. So it's like that one. Like, I remember when they first announced, when they first said anything about the 40th anniversary, in like late 2019, and they talked about how they're gonna have merchandise and brand promotions and a music video, and I'm like, that's cool, but
where's the video games? Yeah.
That one from what's that show?
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, where's the video games?
Where are the video games? Where are they at? Where are the video games?
Where are the video games? I can't breathe.
I love that clip.
So I feel like because the thing is, I feel like my problem with Pac-Man's current state isn't necessarily that the games are bad, but rather the games rarely come out. They come out in somewhat hard to access ways, like Japan exclusive web browser or mobile games services I don't care for, like Apple Arcade and Stadia, etc. And they're barely advertised, so they just sort of show up out of nowhere. And the games themselves have so little to offer that they don't hold my attention for very long.
Right. I
Like,
think you...
even if it's like, the thing is, if a new Pac-Man mobile game comes out and I like it, I'm like, wow, that's cool. But it's not really something I get super invested in because there's not much there to be invested in.
I think you put it pretty much perfect, you know, because yeah, in general, as far as the 40th anniversary goes, I just have to say that, you know, 40, it's a big milestone, and, you know, I wasn't expecting anything, you know, I didn't have any unrealistic expectations. I just went with it. It could be anything. It could be good, it could be bad. I had no expectations, yet I will say that it was still pretty disappointing. And again, I am holding out hope that maybe something is in the works. I mean, and given that COVID-19 could have had an effect on, you know, how development went, it could have been delayed to, like, you know, this year. But the fact of the matter is, it's just been... And the thing is, if it was just this, like, one anniversary where it was just, like, mobile games and small shit, I mean, I would let it slide. But it's been like that for, like, the past few years, you know? It's been like that since after 2016, you know? I mean, the last time we had an actual... Last time we...
I was gonna say, real quick, since I need to, like, get off my computer because it's really low. But, I need to go charge it, but, something I will say for my own closing thoughts is that even though it's, like, I'd say overall the 40th anniversary was kind of bad, but I will say that at least it's better than the 35th anniversary, because all Pac-Man got in the 35th anniversary was a mobile game and an appearance in an Adam Sandler movie.
Well, anything else?
I think that's it.
Alright.
The 45th anniversary will be better.
Yeah. Well,
So, bye.
thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So yeah, that is Jackie-XKH. Be sure to follow her on Twitter and subscribe to her YouTube channel. I will have links to those in the description below. But anyways, I guess, you know, we can continue our, like, discussion here and there. Yeah. But yeah, in general, it's just have been fairly disappointing.
Yeah,
you know.
As for my thoughts on what's happened, I just say that this is just the pinnacle of the creative stagnation of the series.
I mean,
like,
pretty much, you know.
Yeah, because 2016 was already kind of bland and stuff. But now we're reaching the point
2015.
Where nothing. We're reaching the point where there's really nothing creatively that's really being done.
Yeah, we're basically
we're at a blockade that needs to be broken by another game.
Right.
With ambition, but...
Yeah, an ambitious game, you know. It's possible, like, whether or not it's a platformer or you know, a maze game or, you know, whatever. It's just like, you know, Pac-Man needs, like, just another, you know, stab at, you know, an ambitious title. And I mean, that's the unfortunate thing is that, again, the unfortunate thing is, you know, there's no telling, like, what the future, like, holds for us, you know. All I can say is I have hope, but, I mean, I can't exactly, that can't be, like, enough to support, you know, anything. It's just...
I'm just thinking with all the fan base divide and stuff like that, that something is just generally coming. It just coming slower than expected.
I mean, I mean, I don't think another platformer is out of the realm of possibility. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, if I really think about it hard, I just don't see them, I just don't see the development, the very idea of Pac-Man platformers dying off as a whole, And,
platformers are just, while not nearly the main identity of the series, still played some of the important part of
exactly,
it.
I agree, I mean, they're not the main part of the series. They're like they're like a side part. Like, to me, like, 3D Pac-Man platformers to Pac-Man maze games are like what 3D Mario games are to classic 2D Mario games, in a sense, if that makes any sense, because in general, people are gonna mostly know Mario for like Super Mario Brothers, or Super Mario Brothers 3, that stuff. But the 3D games still play a significant part in the series, And in that same way, games like Pac-Man World and Pac-Man World 2 are still important games. Pac-Land is a very important game. It was like the main source of inspiration for Super Mario Brothers. I'm gonna continue to bring that up till the end of time, until this whole stigma against Pac-Man platformers, dies off. At this point, And again, 3D Sonic games. I might as well bring Sonic back into this discourse again, because again, people are mostly gonna know the series for the classic momentum-based 2D games, but the 3D games still are an important part. They're still a significant side of the series, Again, I will say that the main part of Pac-Man are the maze games, and to entirely stop making maze games would be ridiculous. That's not what we're asking for. What we're asking for is balance, or something to keep both sides of the fans.
Sure, there might be a few bad eggs, but other than that, most of us just want balance.
Right. Yes, balance. Coexistence. Platformers or whatnot. Like a new platformer every 4-6 years or whatever is fine. Like every once in a while. It doesn't need to be that constantly. It doesn't. I mean, just focus on maze games predominantly, but have something for the the world fans, or fans of Pac-Man adventure games. Every once in a while. Just have something have balance. And regardless of regardless of what happened this last year, I still have hope that something could be on the horizon, Call me a fool, but, I mean, call me a hopeless fool, but I mean, or, call me overly hopeful, but I mean, it's fairly...
Pac-Man's not a series that could just be easily abandoned. It's too much of a cash cow that would be abandoned.
Right.
Just give it something.
Right. I mean, if Battle for Bikini Bottom can come back, I can see another Pac-Man platformer being made. If KO the Kangaroo can come back, he's getting a new game, right, KO?
Yeah, he's getting a new game. The second game got re-released on Steam. Yeah, I think Pac-Man platformer isn't as unlikely as people think.
Right. There's a fan base behind these games that are dedicated and whatnot. I mean, yeah, there are the bad eggs, as we've gone over before. People who have been, a bit extreme. But I mean, that doesn't mean that our wants aren't, invalid or anything. We're just as valid as, the Maze fans, Thing is, we're also Maze fans too. I mean, we all have overlap between both of them. Yeah, because while I may consider, the platformers be some of the best of the series, I will acknowledge Pac-Man as a maze game first and foremost. Hell, my first game in the series was arguably either Miss Pac-Man or the original arcade game.
Yeah,
probably
my
Miss
first Pac-Man game was the original Pac-Man on Namco Museum DS.
I mean, I remember as a young child, playing Miss Pac-Man on the arcade like at this really shitty Mexican restaurant all those years ago. I mean, it was a long time ago. I mean, the restaurant, you know, it had a nice interior design, but the food was crap. But it had a really cool arcade area, you know. But that's a side point. I mean, but yeah, I distinctly remember playing Ms. Pac-Man, and that was before I ever even knew Pac-Man World existed, you know. So regardless, and again, the fan base for those games, they exist. They're present. They've been kind of growing even, you know. We have more prominent people talking about these games, you know. Definitely a Pac-Man World 4 would... I'm not saying it has to be World 4, but I'm thinking like a game like that would, you know, wouldn't be too bad of an idea, honestly, if you get competent developers, granted. I think the safest you can do is like a remake or a remaster of the trilogy, whatnot. I will say though, as far as, you know, as far as like the 40th anniversary though, you know, the lack of any like ambitious games, or like the lack of, or you know, like when it comes to like the lack of ambitious games, or like the treatment of fans by neglecting, you know, people who play actual consoles and PC for, you know, subscriptions and, you know, systems that most people aren't going to bother. I will say one of the worst things to happen in the 40th anniversary, which was bad as a whole, but what made it worse was, you know, just the whole fandom drama in general.
Yeah, because let me just say this. Namco Kid, just because Tone Tech did some bad decisions doesn't even make them bad. Ryan Sill, the series has always experimented. It's just that the 2000s just had a lot more failures in terms of experiments than successes. And the rest of them are actually look, I hope you just kind of realize that people like World because it's just generally something they like. It, like, just because...
And there's a lot of...
There's an appeal to World that... There's a reason why World 2 is as popular as it is in the fandom.
Right. And, there's just a lot of potential with that formula to begin with. You know, there's still, like, there's still, like, things to improve upon, you know, mechanics that could, from, like, the maze games that could be utilized. I mean, you know, for fuck's sake, you know, like, the power-ups in Mania and, arrangement, you know, those could be, like, really inventive for a Pac-Man platformer. You know, like, Pac-Man arrangement, it has those dash pads, which would be, like, a fun mechanic, you know. Pac and Pal, you know, with, you know, the whole emphasis on, like, your buddy Miru, or however her name is pronounced, you know, how she gets items for you. You know, there's, like, a lot of ideas you can take from these games, you know. And in general, like, the ideas that were already presented in the World games have a lot of potential to be expanded upon. I mean, the World trilogy in general has a lot of cut content, too, that could be utilized for a new game.
There's so much stuff that has potential.
Yeah, there's so much, like, you know, so many ideas that have gone, like, unnoticed, you know. And I mean, again, I will still value the games we have, but regardless, I will always see the potential in them and seeing how better they can get. And again, I'm gonna hold out hope that something can happen, because I just have this feeling inside of me that, you know, the return to these style of games is inevitable. Again, I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen, but I feel like it's inevitable, and, you know, but regardless, I just feel like this collective shitting on, World fans because, you know, just this collective shitting on, people who,
just like games.
Who like the games, in general, like, people who have also, like, expressed disappointment with the IP in general, and it's just kind of,
I'm sure people
toxic.
Could go, oh, we're one of the best positions Pac-Man has been because no Ghost Avengers or no weird experiments.
I mean, we're in a better spot. I mean, well, no, we're not in a better spot. We're in, like, a worse spot because we've practically got nothing over the course of, like, a couple of years, aside from, like, again, games that are on systems nobody's gonna buy, you know. like, we're in a worse... I mean, granted, I guess you could argue that, again, 2005 was a worse time, but even then, you had a game like World Rally, which came afterwards, which was a fairly good kart racer, you know, with, you know, Pac-Man's cast of characters, you know. We got Pac-Man Party for the 30th anniversary, which I played with a friend the other day, and it was a lot of fun, you know. And, I mean, and again, I won't deny, there are toxic individuals, who think that it should only be world, you know, whatnot. I'm not saying it should just be world only, or anything, because that's completely above the point. Pac-Man shouldn't be just one type of thing. He should be all sorts of type of things, you know. Like, you know, he should be, I mean, just a focus on these, I mean, in general, as is, you know, platformers were like basically another half of the series, you know. They were something that were experimented with every decade or so.
Yeah, and it sucks that all this experimentation is just being sucked away.
Right.
All the life stuff.
Right. And again, wanting evolution in the series is not the same as wanting beat 'em up combat or wanting, you know, bad sex jokes. When people want World 4, they're not asking for bad sex jokes or beat 'em up combat. They want to see another game that takes another game that takes, you know, Pac-Man's elements that takes elements from the Maze games, or, you know, that just expands off of the World series, because again, there's just so much potential with the mechanics of these games, you know, so much potential with the stories, you know, so many things to expand upon. I'm not saying it needs to have this like Sonic or Mega Man level lore or whatnot, but again, there's just a lot to, you know, build off of, you know, a lot to improve. World 2 is great, but it's not perfect. It's got a lot of issues, most definitely. And, you know, just like seeing like whatnot, it's, again, and I just feel like, you know, ganging up on like people for wanting to see more out of the series is just not a very, you know, it's not something I can necessarily say I agree with at all.
Mindset. It's not really healthy to think.
You know, I've seen like certain fractions of the fan base, more specifically in like certain Discord servers, just like dogpile on people for like expressing disappointment with how the series has been handled.
Yeah, mostly with people like mostly spin next year. Look, I've noticed they tend to dogpile. Like, they're still nice and cool people, but they just have this bad mentality of dogpiling sometimes.
Right. I feel like a lot of this turmoil would have been avoided if we got a game like, say, Pac-Man World 2010, whatnot. If a game like that had existed, then maybe we wouldn't have been in this situation. Or if we just have or if it's just like, if, you know, Pac-Man platformers are treated like 3D Mario games, where they're just something that is done every once in a while, you know, like not often, but, you know, you still have smaller scale games that are more classic-ish every once in a while. But, you know, I feel like a perfect balance would have really benefited the series.
Yeah, it would make people more likely to be more open.
Yeah. So in general, do you have any final... Well, I mean, what else do you want to say? Do you have anything more you want to say, or, like...
The only thing I really have to say is, I just hope this series can solve its career slump it's in. I just hope that we get to see more cool new stuff of the series, rather than seeing samey, stagnant shit. Because that's just overall what I feel like 40th anniversary was, just stagnant. Very much a lot of the same as we getting for the last few years.
Right. Well, my final thoughts, in general, the 40th anniversary, a pretty big disappointment. I mean, it's better than the 35th anniversary, but that's not saying much, because the 35th anniversary was just nothing. This anniversary was mostly nothing, with titles that were promised, whatnot, we, you know, again, as Jackie said, we had this really cool maze game that's exclusive to fucking Stadia. I'm not touching Stadia with a 10-foot pole. We have Pac-Man Live Studio, which may as well be the Pac-Man equivalent of Mega Man Universe. We got Pac-Man, there was Pac-Man Geo. I've heard mostly not so great things about it, you know, and
I've heard this game has improved quite a bit.
but I mean, the gimmick itself just doesn't really appeal to me at all. The coolest thing we've gotten was probably a Minecraft, you know, DLC. And, you know, I might check that out at some point.
I've already checked it out, and it's pretty good for what it's worth.
Alright. Alright, so I might check that out. I don't really even play Minecraft at all. So...
Me neither, really, outside of friends, but, yeah.
Right, like, aside from, like, when I'm at, like, a friend's house, you know, I don't really play it much. But, yeah, the 40th anniversary was just a massive letdown. I did not expect anything big. I had no expectations of, like, a world game or a world trilogy remake or anything. I didn't even, like, I mean, I was thinking if we got a new platformer, great, but as is, we basically just it's basically just been nothing, you know? A whole pile of nothing, you know? Like, where are the video games? You know, where are they? You know, like, even the regular maze formula, there's still a lot more they can do with it than what they've been doing, you know? I have played a bit of 256, and while it's fun, it doesn't have enough to, you know, compensate, you know, it doesn't have enough to really just...
It's just very shallow.
It's a shallow game. I mean, it's fun to try to beat your own score, but if that's all there is to the game, then what's the point, you know? You know, especially with all the grinding. I mean, by the time you've, you know, unlocked the last power-up, like, what's the point anymore? I mean, I guess you could, like, just grind, you know, try to level that up, but it's just, like, mindless grinding, and it's fairly, you know, not exactly the most fun thing. I'd rather play the original game again, honestly. I have more fun playing the original Pac-Man than I do any of these games that try to than any of these games that have tried to milk it. I enjoy, you know, I enjoy original Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man more than 256 or, you know, stuff like that. I enjoy, you know, all the games like, you know, Pac-Man Arrangement much more because they did, like, a much better job of expanding the formula. So again, even with the maze formula, they could still be doing more. At the end of the day, it just feels like...
Madness, yeah, because games like these, man, can't prove you can do stuff ambitiously.
Yes. At the end of the day, it just feels like the way they handled the series, this 40th anniversary, was mainly just out of obligation. Like, I'd hate to think this was the case, but it just feels like, you know, they'd be like, alright, you know, I did my Pac-Man stuff, you know, now let's go back to the Sword Art Online stuff, ooh, now I want to do that, you know, it's like, I'd hate to think that that's the Bandai Namco mentality, you know.
They have been proving that mentality because there have been quite a number of failed games. There has been because there has been Katamari Remaster, and there has been Mr. Driller game.
Exactly.
So, I mean, they're improving this. But...
Yeah, there's hope. There's the biggest hope I have is the Encore titles. That's the biggest sign of hope we have because, I mean, there's the Klonoa Encore, which we've barely seen anything from, but yeah, but like they're being, you know, but they've been listed as active, so I mean, who knows? It's probably a sign, and if those do better,
those down.
And what?
I just assume COVID slowed that down.
Yeah, I would assume that too. And at the end of the day, 2020 was affected by the virus, you know. That was like a big impediment for a lot of, you know, game developers, you know. Some handle it different than others, but in general, you know, it's possible the very reason we didn't get anything noteworthy this year, or this last year, was because of COVID itself. And if that's the case, then maybe what was intended for last year might come out this year or the next, you know? And you know, as I said before, I just have this feeling inside me that something is on the horizon, you know? But, I mean, I can't be for sure. As I said before, in case we get nothing, we always have each other, you know, whatnot. We always can, like, you know, show our support through, you know, fan projects and whatnot. So at the end of the day, we have that, you know what I mean? Even if we were not at, like, the level of, say, Sonic fan games, or Sonic fan works, or, you know, Mega Man fan works, you know, we can still try to get to that point. But as is, though, I will deny... Oh.
Because Japanese fan contests can't prove that when this community unites, it can make some grand stuff.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, with some of the projects like Spooky's Revenge and Pac-Man Palace, I'm excited to see what they'll, like, bring to the table, whatnot. So that's, like, the one positive thing about all this. But I won't lie, that it's... But at the end... But yeah, I still do feel better about, you know, how the direction the series has taken, you know, whatnot, because, you know, there's talks about, like, this series, you know, about, like, you know, future projects potentially being much bigger, you know, like, you know, PR talk and whatnot, and, you know, depending on how things go, we might get something, you know, that's pretty big, you know. I mean, again, I can't guarantee, you know, I mean, again, we just don't really know. Needless to say, yeah, the 40th anniversary was pretty disappointing, you know,
Yeah,
and it just,
very disappointing.
it came, it went, and it was just a whole lot of nothing. So, I just hope that, within, like, the next few years we can get something with more ambition. But, so, yeah, that's, all I have to say.
That's all I really have to say as well. Nothing really I have to add. I just need to talk more about how I feel about this.
Yeah.
Pac-Maniac and all.
And chances are this probably won't be the last time I talk about this, because, I mean, I don't want to be negative about the series, because, I mean, fuck, have you seen my username? I want to be more positive about the series, you know? And I do have a lot of things to talk about, for future videos in regards to, like, you know, certain fractions of the fan base, certain fractions of, no, not the fan base, certain, factions of the, you know, of the series, you know, and stuff to talk about, you know, whatnot. So I have a lot more positive things to say, with some negative things, you know, but, like, until we, like, get something, you know, like, until, like, we get something good, like, you know, a console release of Pac-Man, Mega Tunnel Battle, or, like, a brand new game that's, like, exciting, you know, has a lot of content, I will still express disappointment here and there, you know, whatnot.
Me too. Realistically, I just feel like I feel we'll still be, I will still have the feeling that they're still in a creative stumble, not knowing what to do.
Right. So, yeah, that's, oh yeah, and of course, the whole stuff with the fan base too, you know, and just,
Yeah.
I don't know what more I can say about that, in general.
Yeah, I would talk, I would just talk flaws about people, but I don't want to get into drama.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, final verdict?
It's...
It kind of sucked, but,
It just, before you was just there and felt like a freedom blockade.
right. It was, simply put, disappointing. So, I guess that's all I really have to say. So yeah, that's it for this video. Be sure to, check out Spacey McSpacer's, YouTube channel, and, like, he's got, like, a lot of, like, great content, like the critiques he's been doing, you know, and the reviews. You know, those are, like, very entertaining to watch.
And the Q&A, which should hopefully be out by the time Newman gets this discussion out, I should have my Q&A out.
I'll have this I'll have this video out on either like the 14th or the 15th.
Yeah, I should get my Q&A by the 14th.
Yes. And but yeah, regardless, go check out Spacey's YouTube. Also check out his Twitter. All the links to that in the description. Also go check out also go follow XKH's Twitter. I'll have that in the description. And hopefully as far as scripted videos on my end goes, I got a pretty big review planned. I've hinted at it here and there. It's quite a hoozy, needless to say, especially considering the topic. It's a secret, by the way. But regardless, that's it for this video. I will see you all later.
Okay, bye. Yeah.
I feel like I've been like talking in circles there for a moment, because I think I like said those exact same things like 3 times in a row. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, probably gonna have to like do some heavy editing with this one. But no, I'm definitely cutting this part out.
Yeah.
But